Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight we are covering the latest game. It's Legia Warsaw versus Celtic, and we're on here on the pre-match for a big night for a cult icon, a Celtic cult legend. What makes a cult legend? Let me know in your comments. Why do we call Artur Boruc a cult legend and not just a legend? Why do we speak about Paddy McCourt as a cult Celtic player? What is a cult player? Let me know. Paddy Lavery, you're first in the comments. Welcome to the show. That watch must be broke. No, that watch is absolutely beautiful and on display, Paddy. Trust me. But I was just trying to bring up the team lines. I wanted to have a wee look at how we are lining up tonight. So apologies. I know that yesterday Declan got pelters for being late, and quite rightly so. But I'll make up excuses for the reasons for me. Ewan Boy Martin, brilliant to see you, Ewan. And hopefully I can see you again in the studio very, very soon. Hail, hail indeed. We're going to run through the lineup for Celtic tonight. We'll have a wee chat about each of the players that is starting for Ange Postecoglou. And also, I have not had the opportunity to speak about our two new signings. So let's have a wee talk about them. They won't be featuring tonight, of course, but let's have a wee chat about our new signings as well. Is Ange finished in the transfer window? Who knows? I think we all kind of guessed that in January we had brought everybody in that we wanted. We'd done our business early. And then, of course, Matt O'Reilly entered the building, and thank goodness that he did, because that is one talented boy, now an under-21 internationalist with Denmark, soon to be a full internationalist, I am sure. Unsurprisingly, our current goalkeeper, Joe Hart, starts this evening for Celtic. So I'm going back to that big question, what makes a cult hero? Why is Artur Boruc a cult Celtic hero? Let me know your thoughts on that. Tony Ralston starts at right back with on the bench Juranovic, who I think is going to be classed as the first choice right back. But I tell you, every time I've seen Tony Ralston so far in pre-season, he has looked hungry, he's up for it, he fits into that inverted full-back role superbly well. And even when he gets injured and gets stitches in his foot, he's back in the reckoning without any delays whatsoever. We have Cameron Carter-Vickers and Stephen Welsh in the centre-half positions. What's your thoughts on centre-half? Is that where you thought we needed to strengthen? Was that the priority? I certainly did feel that it was, and we have gone out and we've strengthened. And we have another Moritz. Were you a fan of the first, Moritz Bauer? I certainly was. I disagree on a regular occasion with Colin Watt, who wasn't a big fan of Moritz Bauer. But we have our new Moritz, and he is in the building. He's on loan for a year. After, and this is some of the concerns I've been reading online, after a fairly unsuccessful last season, but he's hungry. He obviously fits the mould that Ange is looking for. And I think he will be above Stephen Welsh in the pecking order. Left back, Bernabe. How impressed have you been with him since you've seen him? I'm going to go back to the centre-half position as well. I'm going to throw quite a lot of questions out at you, and you can let me know what you think. It's quite clear we've got Cameron Carter-Vickers and we've got Carl Starfelt as our first choice central defensive partnership. We then look at Stephen Welsh, who I would suggest is the next choice, because in the last game and tonight he has been picked over Chris Jullien. Is Chris Jullien in what we could call football purgatory at the moment? Is it just a matter of time before he leaves the building? Because obviously he did have a loan deal set up and it fell through at the last minute. Is he just biding his time until he gets a move? Can he rebuild his Celtic career very much like Jozo Simunovic did? Remember his move to Torino broke down. It looked as though he was on his way for I think 4 or 5 million quid. It broke down and he ended up having many more games and many more excellent performances in the hoops after that particular move broke down. In fact, his most famous moment probably was his tackle against Rangers when Kenny Miller was catapulted into the air. That or his goal against Aberdeen when he was wearing Billy McNeil's number 5 jersey and he scored in the 67th minute, I think it was, wasn't it? So that was an incredible moment as well. Did those moments happen after the move broke down? Let me know. I would need to check myself. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Did those moments happen after the move to Torino broke down? And the reason I'm asking is, could Chris Jullien still have big moments in a Celtic jersey? Or has his time up? In the midfield, we have Callum McGregor no longer sporting a mask, and I promise I will stop saying that after tonight, because I can't say it every week. It was like last season, Abada, and he's only 19. There was always that footnote. And he is joined in the midfield three with Rio Hatate and the aforementioned Matt O'Reilly. I think previously there was the question around whether O'Reilly and Turnbull could play in the same side. Well, I think they answered that question, didn't they, at the weekend against Blackburn. It ended up quite a disappointing result, I think, because Celtic were far and away for the first maybe hour or so a better side, and I just thought they were going to extend their lead. It didn't happen, and we kind of tapered off near the end. But what I've seen of the O'Reilly and Turnbull partnership is that they certainly can play in the same Celtic side. But I am glad to see Rio Hatate back tonight, because I think in the previous games pre-season we saw someone who was full of energy, who was very, very sharp, and he has spoken openly about some of the struggles he had coming to Celtic, the change in dynamic, the change in country, the change in culture, the whole thing did affect him. So I think we're going to see the best of him this season, and I hope we're going to see the best of Rio Hatate this season. Jamesy Forrest on the right, with... It looks like Abada will be playing through the middle and Maeda on the left-hand side. And I find that quite interesting as well, because we know that we've got Kyogo on the bench tonight. So when you're looking at the centre forward position, it looks as though Ange is asking himself the question, can we get through this transfer window without bringing in a backup centre forward? And that's a question we've asked on Acsom a few times. If I'm being greedy, I would like a third striker. But it has been pointed out numerous times in the comments section by you guys that we've got Maeda and we've got Abada, and both of them can play through the middle. So it looks as though Ange is taking the opportunity to test Abada through the middle with Maeda on the left. We'll, of course, have Jota on the bench. I've been throwing out some teasers and some posers for you tonight. Let me know what makes a cult hero. Is Arthur Boruc a cult hero, and why? So who do we have on the bench? We've got Scott Bain on there. We've not seen him a great deal. We did see one half, and I thought he performed particularly well when we seen him playing half a game earlier on in the pre-season. Siegrist pulled off 3 very good saves against Blackburn Rovers. We've also got Jullien, who we've mentioned already. Greg Taylor, first choice left back, sitting on the bench at the moment. Kyogo, who we've mentioned as well. David Turnbull. James McCarthy, who we've not seen a great deal of in the pre-season. Jota, who has looked absolutely superb so far. Mikey Johnson. Put him in the same category as Jullien and ask the question, does he have a future at Celtic? Ideguchi, I think we've seen some flashes from Ideguchi that would suggest that he's going to play a part this season as well. Bosun Lawal and Josip Juranovic making up the bench there. And a question about Lawal is, after the Blackburn game, which I covered solo as well, there was quite a bit of criticism came through on the comments about Lawal live and also afterwards on the YouTube channel, saying that they're not sure if they were watching the same game as me and that he hadn't played too well. I wasn't really basing my comments simply on the Blackburn performance. I just think overall during the pre-season, I think he's fared pretty well. And the question was, you know, what does the future hold from this season? On a personal level, I think now that we have brought in what we required in a centre half, I think that any other moves that happen is basically based on Chris Jullien. The move that Jullien had lined up, I think we will be looking to create another one of those for him, a loan to buy. And if that happens, I think that we also loan out Lawal and Welsh stays put. And I think we've got enough at that stage to run. But I do think we'll still try and get Jullien out the building. And when you look at this lineup and previous lineups, it doesn't look as though Albion Ajeti is in Ange's plans either. I am looking forward to bring in as many of you into the chat as possible. That's what tonight is all about, indeed. Mikey Dewar, looking forward to this one. I am. What's your biggest memories of Arthur Boric then, Mikey? What's your fondest memories of him? Because he had a few, didn't he? And I always felt that when he did leave Celtic, that it was maybe a little bit premature. I felt that he had a few years left in the tank at the time. And I'm not saying that with hindsight. And he proved that he did, because he played right up until the end of the season. And obviously he did that at quite a level as well. Whilst playing with Legia Warsaw, his teammate, of course, was Josip Juranovic. And they will be reunited tonight in some way or other. There was a wee bit of controversy surrounding this game, and the fact that the prices of the tickets were deemed to be too high in terms of the normal ticket prices for a Legia Warsaw game. They were said to be cashing in on the fact that obviously they had this bond, the fans had this bond with Arthur Boric, and Celtic fans have the same bond with him. And I'm hoping that quite a few of them have travelled over to watch the game as well. We'll soon see the action on Celtic TV as I bring that up on the screen. So yeah, Mikey Dewar, I'm looking forward to it. Let me know what your best memories of Arthur Boric are in a Celtic jersey, and also, why is he a cult hero? What makes a cult hero? What other players are in that category? I always look at someone like Anton Rogan, not Anton Rodgers. Anton Rogan is a cult hero. And when I think of Anton Rogan, I think you can look at what defines a cult hero. And I think a cult hero is one of two things, right? It's either a player with undoubted talent who doesn't reach his peak or his potential for a number of reasons. And those reasons normally involve drink, gambling, women, and a lack of application or fitness. And then you've got a player like, so who was in that category? Paddy McCourt maybe? And then you've got a player like Anton Rogan, who was dedicated to the craft, trained hard, always gave 100%, but didn't quite have that God-given talent of a Paddy McCourt. But he endeared himself to the fan base in a different way, and that's because we knew he was a 100% player. We knew that he would run through brick walls, to use an old cliche for the jersey and for Celtic. So I think you divide them into two different categories. You've got the God-given talent who didn't try hard enough, and the one who didn't have the talent who tried too hard. Arthur Boric was probably in the former category. I mean, he was an absolutely astonishing goalkeeper, but as Gordon Strachan has spoken about in the past, he didn't always apply himself too well, liked a drink, liked a wee smoke, and got up to all sorts. Did that affect his Celtic performances? I'm not sure if that's the reason that he had a few howlers in a Celtic jersey, but sometimes when you see, particularly in the modern age, and I think the cult player is dying out a wee bit, when you see someone who breaks the rules, who's a little bit more like you and me, who likes a pint with his mates and all this kind of stuff, or they're a bit of a hellraiser, Oliver Reed type, then you kind of warm to them, don't you? You can relate to them a little bit more. Is that what makes a cult player? I'm just throwing it out there. You might disagree. Let me know your thoughts, because I'm going to bring in as many of your comments as we possibly can. About 350 of you watching live. Thank you all for joining. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I might have to have a few breaks for a wee drink, because I can't do that while someone else is chatting. And we'll come straight to you and Boy Martin. Cult players, in a way, are players with unique personalities, which makes you remember them. Well, I think that a player like that who would fall into that category would be Stefan Mahe. So he was a guy that came in from PSG, who was undoubtedly talented. If you think about the PSG team he played for, that we signed him from, completely different PSG from the modern day club that we see, but they were a very, very good side, and many Celtic fans that I've spoken to reckoned that at the time they were the best side that we had seen at Celtic Park for some time. Remember, they came across and they beat us 3-0 at Celtic Park, and that was in the European Cup Winners' Cup. It was in Tommy Burns' second season. We were in the tournament virtue of our Scottish Cup win against Adrionians, 1-0, Pierre Van Hooijdonk, 9 minutes. And I remember going over to Paris And that was the birth of Celtic fans singing Roll With It. And it's been raised and pointed out to me that in the Parc des Princes, they didn't just play Roll With It that night, they also played Country House by Blur. So I'm guessing it was in the midst of the Battle of Britpop, and they played both singles because they had what they would see as a British team over. Obviously, I would never class Celtic as a British team, but we've came over and they've played both clubs, both singles rather. And the Celtic fans, I think, warmed to Roll With It. It was then adopted at Celtic Park and played on a number of famous occasions, and just recently it made another appearance at Celtic Park. And I think that Stefan Mahe, who played for that PSG team alongside guys like Paul Le Guen, remember him? Patrice Loco, who scored a couple at Celtic Park, I think. He came from that side and he was an excellent player, but there was something about his personality, Ewan, that really endeared him to the Celtic support, wasn't there? So yeah, it was nothing to do with his ability that made him a cult, it was more his personality, so that's a good point. We've got someone else buzzing for the game, Les Paul Styled. Do you play a Les Paul? Let me know. We do an unplugged session every Saturday night on the channel. If you're in a band, you might end up appearing on that, because we're always looking for good music to appear. Will Jackie Gianowski be there? Sorry, at first, Joe, I'm not taking the mick about your spelling. I thought it was Giacomakis you were talking about. Jackie Gianowski. Will he be at the game? You'll remember back in the 1980s, the late 80s, we brought in two Polish international players. One, of course, was Dariusz Giaconowski, who was swiftly renamed Giaconowski, and his teammate Dariusz Dovcek, who I think was renamed Shuggy. And I always look back on those two guys with a bit of fondness, because I'm a youngster going to Celtic Park at that time. And, you know, bringing in continental players wasn't as regular as what we see now. It wasn't the done thing, really. And we bring in two Polish internationalists with heaps of ability. And people go back, we're talking about cult players, Joe. Who more cult than Jackie Giaconowski? And the players that I have spoken to since then who played with him talk about a guy who had such natural ability, but really didn't apply himself too often. But when we saw him at his absolute best, it was astonishing. I know it wasn't the best goal in the world, but he scored against Rangers when the ball ricocheted off the post, hit him on the shin, went in the back of the net. There is that famous game. He will always be remembered for scoring 4 against Partizan Belgrade. The number 9 jersey he wore that night is in my forthcoming book on the Celtic jersey. Shameless plug, forgive me. But there were other moments, weren't there? People talk about a game where he scored, now correct me if I'm wrong, Dynamo Moscow in a friendly. And he scored a fantastic goal, which I'm not sure was captured on film. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but if it is, check it out. And I'm sure it was Dynamo Moscow. It was an incredible goal. But he did score, it was a scissor kick. He did score another goal similar to that against Hibs, didn't he? An overhead kick, fantastic goal for Celtic as well. But what I found interesting, he is definitely a cult player, but what I found interesting when I was reading Hail Caesar, the Billy McNeill autobiography, is that he spoke about bringing in the two Poles, and he spoke about his frustration, not at Jackie Giaconowski, but at Dariusz Dovcek, because he felt that in terms of natural ability, he was one of the best players he had ever worked with. And when that comes from Billy McNeill and the players he's worked with and played with, it's some accolade, isn't it? And he actually felt that Dovcek underperformed for Celtic. And I don't know the reasons behind that. I think we did see flashes from Dovcek. St Patrick's Day massacre free kick from about 50 yards. Every time I tell the story, it probably gets further back. There was a deflection on its way in, but what a goal that was, the 2-0 victory. And many other moments. And I remember being at the game against Motherwell at Fir Park, first game of the season, 1990. 1990-91, I think it was, 89-90. It was Billy McNeill's last season. He gets sent off as well. So there was a wee element of that to his game. But it would be great, wouldn't it, Joe, to see Jackie Jackanoski at the game. He has given a few interviews over the years about Celtic. And he popped up, didn't he, for one of the Legends games at Celtic Park, wearing the black away kit. Des Brennan. Colin wouldn't be happy if Messi came in on loan. Des. We're talking about Colin Watt. Because obviously Colin and myself were on Monday, and we were talking about the impending arrival of our two new signings who have obviously came in and one on loan and one permanently, but we got wind of the moves a couple of days ago. So we were talking about, it was actually on Monday we were talking about Aaron Moy, and then the news started breaking, I think, on Monday afternoon that Moritz Jens was coming in as well on loan. Both deals have happened, both deals have been announced. And the headline of the Monday Bulletin was that the Aaron Moy move was dividing opinion. And we asked the question, is it underwhelming or do we trust in Ange? And then straight away you get a lot of comments saying, oh, how negative is that? How negative are you? I didn't feel we were. I honestly didn't think we were negative on Monday. Some people, I understand, are commenting without watching it, and they're maybe just going by the title, but they've got to understand that the title is limited. It's limited as in what you can put in there. You can't go on and on and on. It was dividing opinion, certainly on social media, the move for Aaron Moy. And we were simply asking the question, underwhelming or trust in Ange. And I don't think Colin was as convinced as I was. I'll give you that. I don't think he was as convinced as me. But I looked at the Aaron Moy scenario and I thought, well, some people were concerned at his fitness. And I wasn't really concerned at his fitness because although he has left his parent club to look elsewhere, he was playing at a high level for Australia not that long ago and performing well in doing so. So at international level, obviously your fitness has to be at a peak. So I wasn't too concerned about that. I think what I said on Monday, though, was that most players that come in, and I know that he's played under Ange at Australia, but I think on a club level, anyone who comes in and plays under Ange probably needs to step up the tempo of their training regime and their game anyway. So I think that's natural that would happen. And I think that we saw it last season with a number of injuries that we had, but also the fact that there was a few players that took them a while to get into their stride. And I think Carl Starfelt's in that bracket, and I think Giakoumakis is in that bracket as well. Other ones hit the ground running, fantastic, but there are players that took a wee while. So I'm not too concerned about Aaron Moy's fitness. He's 31, which is no age if you've looked after yourself in the modern game. People might say, yeah, but is that not a contradiction when you're talking about James McCarthy? But I think that James McCarthy hasn't had his troubles to seek in terms of his injuries in his last 2 or 3 years. And of course, the McCarthy deal is incomparable to the Moy deal when you think about the fact that he's been given a 1-year deal. We have an option at the end of that to extend it, whereas we gave James McCarthy a 4-year deal. And then you're thinking to yourself, unless he has that Indian summer as Scott Brown had, after year 2 it's going to be tough to move him on if it's not working out. So I was convinced, I am convinced with Aaron Moy. This is my first time I've had the opportunity actually to speak about it on the Bulletin since it was confirmed that he's signed. So I would say, yeah, I'm happy with it. I think there's enough attributes in his game, defensively and offensively. So he does break up the play. He breaks up the play really, really well. He turns defence into attack. I think his passing range is excellent. He can create chances. He's got a decisive pass in him that can open up defences. And I also like the part of his game where he's able to shoot from distance. He does have that Tommy Rogic-esque ability to do that. So I see elements of the game that Nir Bitton had. I see elements of the game that Tommy Rogic has. There's no way that one player can replace the two players. I'm not saying that for a moment, but I think that it's a very shrewd signing by Ange Postecoglou. We know that it is an Ange Postecoglou signing, of course it is. He knows the player really, really well. So yeah, I wasn't being negative for sure. Colin and I disagree a lot, Des, on players. We disagreed on who most recently? Leo Connor. Disagreed on Leo Connor. We disagreed on Luke O'Connell, and I'm sure there's others. Nir Bitton. Colin was a huge fan of him at centre-half. I wasn't. So we do have our disagreements, Des. I totally get that. But I think, in general, on Acsom, we've been pretty positive. And I know Declan was positive about the Moy deal as well. We're 25 minutes in. Let's have a wee look at the action. And thankfully, it's not the game that's playing, it's the highlights from the weekend. We will be live very, very soon, but we've got another 5 minutes, maybe 4, because as Paddy Lavery said, I was a wee bit late. Sorry, guys. Let's bring you back in, Les Paul styled. I feel we will get a few more signings, possibly a loan or two. Defender is needed still, I feel. Well, I think it is, but what's going to hold that up for me is Chris Julian. I think we'll see a bit of movement as soon as Chris Julian... Colin Watt's a very happy person indeed, Des. And he's come on to defend himself tonight. I've already defended you, Colin. But there you go. It's all fun and games. We're not going to fall out on a Celtic state of mind for sure. Here we go. Joe Fulham is throwing it out there. Cameron Carter-Vickers and Moritz might develop into the starting two. Is that unfair on Carl Starfelt, perhaps, Joe? We'll throw that out there. Is that a wee bit unfair on a player who I think had a bit of a shaky start? But I think once he adapted, he was solid. And I think the partnership as well was solid. I'm going to bring in to some of the more recent comments that's coming in as well. I don't want anybody thinking I'm ignoring you. There are a lot of comments and I'm only on here on myself as well. Jungle Lion, I was talking about this today. We've got a big event in Edinburgh on Saturday, and I was out and about today collecting merchandise. We are going to be selling books, merchandise, music and art for some of our favourite people that we've met over the last couple of years, some of our favourite artists, and we're not going to take any commission because we want to support independent artists, so we're going to be selling it on their behalf in a very busy shopping centre in Edinburgh, where the footfall is up to 70,000 on a Saturday, so we're trying to support the band, so we're out there picking up books and picking up CDs, etc. And I had that conversation in the car on the way back, Jungle Lion, and I know your name's not actually Jungle Lion, but does Boruc play a half for Celtic tonight? You know what? I don't think Ange would allow it. What do you reckon? We've seen it so many times in testimonial games, haven't we? I don't think Ange would allow it. It goes back to that old, we don't play friendlies. And I honestly don't think that he would forsake a half for someone like Bain or Siegrist just to give Arthur Boruc a game. I think Ange is that hard. I might be proved wrong. What do you reckon? 2 more players. Thanks, David Bradley. Well, I think back to a podcast we did at the beginning of the pre-season when the transfer window was open, and we were talking about what we needed, and I gave an interview at that time, and I think what I said at the time, correct me again if I'm wrong and I will check this, that we needed a backup goalie, we needed a left back, a centre half, a defensive midfield player and a striker. And that was the 5 I believe that we needed. But I think I said that before Rogic and Beaton left. So I thought we needed 5. Colin Watt, who's in on the chat, believed we needed 6. And when you started working that out, that was, by the way, that was over and above, that's what it was. That was over and above Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers. I thought we needed 5. So of all the players that I thought we were going to bring in, the backup striker's the one we've not brought in. And I know that Aaron Moy isn't a defensive midfielder as such. I know he can play there. So I still think we need 1 more, David. But I'll go back to the point that Ange made. He said he was bringing in 2. He's brought in 2. Arthur Boruc is on the park. He's receiving hugs and he's receiving tributes and plates and all that kind of thing. There he is. He's looking great. I think he's 42 now. He's wearing a Legia Warsaw top at the moment anyway. He wouldn't start for Celtic. Will he make an appearance for Celtic in the centre half? I'm an old romantic. I would like to see it, right? I would like to see it. But I'm not sure we're going to see that. I really am not sure we're going to see it. I don't think Ange Postecoglou will allow it, but he could prove me wrong, of course. And he's just up there and he is exchanging pennants with Callum McGregor, who is wearing the Boruc t-shirt, which is a lovely, lovely thing to see as well. Celtic in their away kit tonight. I'm not going to mention the fact that McGregor is maskless after tonight. I will mention it a couple of times because I think it's important that you should point out that Callum McGregor played with an injury for most of last season, and he was phenomenal. Was there doubts that he could fit in as a Celtic captain? Well, yes, there was. And I was one of the people that wondered whether or not he was captain material. I was wanting Chris Ayer to stay at Celtic and be the captain. I was wrong. McGregor has proved a lot of people wrong. I have never doubted his ability as a player, but I wasn't sure if he could take the armband from Brown. He proved he certainly could. I'm just looking at the moment. It looks as though the stadium's about half full. That's a wee bit of a shame. But we did speak about that before the game, didn't we? And the fact that there was a real issue around the ticketing of this game and the pricing of the ticketing. Don't get us started on the pricing of the catering at Celtic Park. That's already been covered, and hopefully the club will look into that. But the stadium looks about half full. And I've not yet seen the Celtic element in there, but I'm sure there is a Celtic element. There always is. Beautiful, glorious sunshine tonight, and we're about to kick off. So let's join the action. I will be back at half-time, and hopefully we will be looking at Celtic being ahead. And we'll find out soon enough, Jungle Lion, if Boric is coming out for the second half. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Enjoy the first half, and I'll see you in about 45 minutes.